Hi guys, Mr. Jaeger here, and welcome to Invictus launch week. Woo! Yes, we're finally here. Oh, we're so finally fucking here. Oh, it's amazing. So yes, welcome to Invictus launch week, the week of so many awesome things that we'll be able to see over the course of a week, which is lovely. So, no shit, Sherlock, on that one. But no, welcome to Invictus launch week, a fantastic event. I'm very excited I was spent so long at work trying to get the fucking time off, and finally got the time off, which was lovely. Last-second.com, but fuck it, we're here. And of course, it is an opportunity to not only revel in the awesome level of lore in this game, as well as the awesome level of total stability and no bugs whatsoever, what you were talking about. Unfortunately, yeah, this is... I'm going to have to probably put a few caveats to warn you guys. First of all, we do have fireworks going off at the moment inside the game. This is due to, in part, the Invictus Week special. So unfortunately, I think we're going to have constant fireworks going off in the background, which is a bit of a shame. Unfortunately, just nothing we can really do. Second, there may be points where my frame rate goes to shit. Unfortunately, because this event is quite strenuous on the servers, frame rates and other stuff will be affected. I can only apologize. My system is good, but it's not perfect. But at the moment, it's quite smooth and stable, so this may not happen or last at all, but there we go. So anyway, but no, today's event is all about... today we're going to be talking about a variety of ships from the RSI, the Origin Jump Works, the Argo Aeronautics, and the Consolidated Outland. For some reason I failed in that one. But of course, let's have a quick look around the first room. This is basically the initial lobby where you can buy your support for your favorite ships. Some of them being the atypical Origin Jump Works, which, you know, it's Origin. They're assholes. The Ultimate Shads, which is the Crusader Industries, whose recent releases have... Oh, I can't wait to show it off. We've got the ship's company's name that I can never fucking pronounce correctly, the Musashi's Industrial Starflight and Concern, or just and Starflight Concern, or MISC, as I'll try and just keep to that. We've got Aegis Dynamics, which is... Woo, lovely old girls. They are the old girl. They are the older Meso regime ship makers, but they have their place in the current state of affairs. Of course, Consolidated Outland, the Mustang makers, and various other things. Though, in my opinion, I would say their prominence has risen slightly more due to the fact that they've released the Nomad. By the way, just want to say, I want this jacket IRL. This jacket is fucking awesome. I don't care how much it costs. I want it. I've already bought it in-game. Also, you have hats and stuff to show off your allegiances. Hello? Fine, fuck you. So you can show your allegiances to the Invictus launch week, which is nice. I have the hat. Not that specific hat, but more the UEE United in Purpose hat. So there we go. I'm very proud of that. I might even wear that in like a visual thing, but yeah. So we hop over to the other side. There's Argo Aeronautics. Fucking beautiful chads that they are. Love them. They are awesome. I mean, they're limited. They have limited use really in terms of a military field, but I like the style they have. It's really cool. And of course, Anvil Aerospace, the current providers of most UEE modern ships. Really nice ships, and their hats and t-shirts are equivalent. We've got, once again, Aegis Aeronautics, and of course, RSI, the original Chads, the original legends who started the whole process off in our dearest... Oh, that's cool. Cool, that's a working animation. Yeah. So, without further ado, let's get started. I did a bit of a quick preview, like pre-nub, just to see what was going on. So I do kind of know what's going on in this place for today, but I'll try and keep myself as blind as possible. I tend to like to keep myself blind one of these days, just so that way you can revel in this stuff together. But there is a bit of a treat coming up for you to start off with, which I have to admit, it's looking pretty fucking tight. So we make our way towards the expo hall. And we enter into it, which looks impressive. And, oh, what's this? There's normally a... What?
Hello. Celebrated since 2541, Invictus gives the public an opportunity to see the latest and greatest additions to the UEE Navy fleet. Ever want to see what life is like aboard a
Slightly
capital
wrong
ship?
placed. He did work originally.
Invictus is offering a rare opportunity to explore an active-duty Javelin destroyer.
Normally he's supposed to be in the center. He did, on my first run through, which I might actually be showing on the, oh yeah. Yeah, that never happens. So yes, we make our way towards the main floor. I'll probably be showcasing the footage in the background of me when I initially made my run through, but that guy normally stands in the center. Really awesome though, really like the giant holographics display. So we make our way into the hallway, and I will say right now, this is a fantastic difference in comparison to IAE. Mainly for a couple of things. Let me just get rid of my helmet and get myself a drink and some food. So the first reason is it's a dark theme. I do love the darker tones of this entire environment. It's so much better. So much better. Sadly, I have to report we don't have Arsehole of the Event here, which is a real shame. I was very upset to see this guy not here. I'm hoping it's just because it's Invictus week and it's not CitizenCon. I'm hoping we see that guy at the event this year. But obviously, at the moment in time, it's going to be it's going to be, at the moment, just this guy with the white hair. He doesn't actually say anything, which is a bit of a shame, so a bit of a disappointment, but nonetheless useful because we can just get on to things. Anyway, remember guys, when you finish with your drinks, put them in the bin. You also get some different bits of fruit. Oi, gravity, stop it. We're not litterbugs. I've already had a dinner thing from them for us, so I'll just grab an apple. Vermilion apple. Ooh, very fancy. Ah, looks like a pretty decent looking apple. Oh my god, it's an accurate food type as well. Nice. So, probably going to put my helmet back on because, as with previous events, the ships are in a sort of weird flux environment. They're like, you can power them on, but the lighting and everything else inside doesn't actually work. So, we will be using good old torchy torch to see certain ships. And let's have a look at the map. So as you can see, this area is made up of multiple rooms, each having their own displays of ships, and we're going to take our time looking around all of these different ships, and giving my viewpoints on the ships, and also giving new players or players who haven't played Star Citizen an opportunity to discover a new like, maybe a reason to jump into this game, because of course this game is free to try throughout the entire event, which I hope to catch you in at some point. So as you can see, a lot of RSI ships are in the center. We have a couple of Origin jump works to the side, one Consolidated Outland, and of course Argo MPUV. So all of the Constellations are in one room, and then all of the other ships are in the other. We also have a subterranean section, which is accessible via these two cycles, which allow you to see not only ground vehicles, but also the holodeck, which is basically where all the new stuff is, and all the love as well for it. So without further ado, let's get started. So as we enter into the main exhibition hall, you'll no doubt notice there's a load of ships in the center, which will be more the thing you'll be going towards. But I just want to quickly note on the side of the room, on both sides of the room, the ship weapons and components. So we're going to do a quick lap around, shouldn't take too long. So all of these different ship components and weapons are all the guns and other things that are available to pretty much all of the ships in the game, with their own little hard points. And more awesome is that you can actually buy these on site as well, which is a really awesome thing. I like that. There's also another nice thing, which is the ability for you to actually just to examine how big some of these weapons can get. As you can see, all of these weapons, with a lot of these weapons, you'll actually find that there's bigger sizes for them and everything, and it is really impressive when you see some of the bigger weapons out there. It is absolutely awesome. So for any new players out there, this is a good opportunity for you to learn that not only when you buy a ship do you get the ship itself, we'll get you in a second, sexy, but it's also an opportunity for new players to realize that there's a way for you to improve the status of your ship from what it was as stock to something which is a little bit more beefed up for more combat focused things. Now, as you can see here, we have access to the shield generators, which again you can buy. Some of the shield generators and other stuff have different qualities and grades. I won't bore you with over details and stuff, but all I can say is I don't know enough about them to really have 100% this is good, this is bad kind of knowledge, but what I can say is that all of these components have their own unique quirks to them, and depending on what you want out of them, they will give that and some, whether it's something that works for longer and while basically being a massive power drain, it at least is functional and you can deal with all the shit. Or do you want to have something that is really fucking quiet on the IR signature, but it gives you the ability to be stealthy if you want. There are those kind of components available to utilize as well, which is fantastic. So as we make our way around, we gain access to, well, we see all of the other items. Again, it's not really a lot to show at this point. We do have also the ability to look at the ground-based vehicles hardwares as well, because obviously we do have ground vehicles in Star Citizen and they have components too, though I have to admit I don't really know what you can upgrade them towards, because I don't think you can, at least I'm not sure. Again, don't quote me on this, I don't know, I've never tried upgrading ground vehicle components. For some reason now we hear bloody we now have wind being blown into us, so again I'll be making some edits, I'll be making some stuff in the edit, so you'll probably be hearing my voice too much. And of course, these little bad boys, the attritions. One unique thing I can say about the attritions is that they have the distinct, the uniqueness, I would say, of being one of the only energy weapons to get more damaging as you fire it. With most energy weapons, when you fire it, they overheat, they stop firing. Whereas with these weapons, the more heat they get into them, the more damage they do. So it's a nice balancing act between trying to make sure these things are as hot as possible before they overheat and being able to shoot as much as you can with them, which is nice. And we finally end with one of the most useless weapons in the game, at least for me, which is the shotgun. Because what are you going to do in space with a shotgun? But anyway. So we now finally go to the center, which is, of course, looking at all of the different ships. And what's available for us? Well, we've got the Aurora series, the Mantis, and the Constellation series as well. We'll list off the smaller ships first, and then we'll go to the big ships afterwards before making our way towards the second room. So to start off with, let's talk about the Aurora. Now, this is the more militarized version. This is the Aurora LN. There are multiple fucking versions, and I mean multiple. I think there's more than 5 versions of this ship. But generally speaking, the Aurora is a bare bones starter. She's one of the cheapest ships you can get in the game with the game starter package. She is the same price as the Mustang, but in my opinion, I would say she is more valuable in terms of money than the Mustang for 2 reasons. Well, first of all, with the game package edition, you won't gain access to 4 missiles, or you don't have from the beginning, I should say, for access to 4 missiles and extra gun ports. Though you do have the mounts ready for guns, just unfortunately you can't. You'll need to get those separately. So you get into the ship via this side access panel, and we'll just hop in there. So there's 2 things about this particular ship that I'd say has an advantage over the Aurora, over the Mustang, which is, of course, the first thing, which is the biggest thing, of course, is the bed. Now, the Auroras all come with their own tiny little bed. It is not much. As you can see, it's very simplistic. Nothing, there's like a windows on each side, but generally speaking, they are designed for one purpose and one purpose only: sleeping. But in Star Citizen, a bed is going to be very useful, and is very useful, because when you log out and log back in, you will be logging in on the bed that you slept in on, which means, if for argument's sake, and this is more a thing in the future, when Star Citizen's more released, you'll be able to fly around the verse doing your own thing, hanging out with your friends, and then, reality comes in, comes a knock, and you got to get ready for work or whatever. So you go, okay guys, I'll go to bed, I'll see you tomorrow. You log out in, let's say, a quiet outpost that your friends are holding in your ship. And then when you log back in, you'll log back in your ship at your friend's outpost, which is really fucking cool. You don't have to go to a specific loading point and then go to there. You can just go, you know what, fuck it, I want to be here for this evening. poof, problem solved. So the second thing, which is more my own personal preference, but I feel is something that is valuable to any new pilot who wants to play Star Citizen, which is, of course, visual. Now, when you start flying the Aurora, you'll see these MFDs. As mentioned, the power systems, when you start them up, they don't work. I've attributed this into a lore reason, which is they are the show models on the they are the showroom models. Like, every bum and arsewipe has been in these things, fucked around with them, so they're not really functional, but that's the point. They're not meant to be functional, because if it was, then you'd have a flying ship with weapons inside a civilian environment. Not really the safest thing, is it? So instead, what I'll talk about is what these MFDs will represent, which is, of course, extra visuals inside your vessel. Extra visuals for what your ship's components are doing. There we go. And they're all within visual range. Like, if I press the Z button to go back up to the top again, you can see all four are in your visual range, and you don't have to go looking for them, which is a really big plus. And in addition to this, you've also got these struts which open out, giving you the ability to look down whilst you're landing. Now, of course, there is a third-person view that, as you can see, you can activate and you can fly around and whatever, but there are some times where you want that finite precision, and that's where having the first-person view comes in. So when you do have that first-person view, and it allows you to land with you being able to see where you're landing, that's a pretty good thing in my book, and is a very strong assist for when we've got a new player in tow. So these are the two reasons why I would say the Aurora, in comparison to the Mustang, is a much better ship for it. Now, this ship does also have a cargo capacity, but I'll be honest with you, I've never actually figured out how to use it. Even when I owned it, I didn't even realize I had it until recent years, which is this area. This point is where you're supposedly meant to put the cargo into it. I'm assuming what happens is you latch it onto the underside of this Picatinny rail, and then as you're transporting it about or whatever. But again, I don't know how that would work, and I don't think it's working at this point. But again, if you're working on a budget, and you want to have a ship which is good at freighting and moving stuff about, and also gives you the ability to log out, I can't recommend anything else except the Aurora series. Though, if you do have a budget and you can go slightly higher, then I would very much strongly recommend the Titan Avenger, which is, in my opinion, and probably many other players in this game, the best starting ship in the game, without a doubt. So we move from the Aurora to a ship I can't help but feel sorry for, which is the RSI Mantis. And the reason for this is because the RSI Mantis is a ship which is design could be quite dramatic, and what it's meant to do is a big thing, but because of the current state of the game, it just doesn't have anything. It's just effectively a showroom ship. But what it can possess and what it can do, it is there. It will do something in the future, but right now it just doesn't, and I feel so bad for it. So what is this thing? Well, this is the Mantis, as said. This is a single-seat quantum interdiction ship. So what does that mean? It sounds like garbled stuff. Well, quantuming basically will eventually result. Let's make our way into the ship. Will eventually be resulted to hyperlane. So imagine Star Wars. Particular parts of. So let's go into our segue map. So in each and all of the different parts of the Stanton system, for example, we'll have, you'll effectively leave trails, which eventually, because of computing or whatever, enough players will have gone down to basically map out specific routes for pirates and other stuff, or just for players in general to figure out. And as such, pirates, or a bit of people trying to catch pirates, will try and track these things in order to try and snag someone whilst they're quantuming out. Now, how would one go about doing this? Well, let's get into the pilot seat, and I will show you. Make our way into the ships. This does have very good visuals. I mean, before we go into the quantum enforcement device, I will say the visuals for this ship look pretty impressive. Not quite as much visuals as the Aurora, but it does give you a decent little head start. It's almost like a cinematic environment for what you're about to do. So anyway, so you want to use the quantum enforcement device. Well, what you do is you hit this button. And then at the back of the ship, the quantum enforcement device will turn on. Obviously, can't do it because, you know, showroom floor, but either way. So what these 4 rings will do is they'll eventually start creating a spherical orb that increases in power, and then when it's at 100%, releases a massive sphere of energy outwards towards the into the quantum lane, which then creates it disrupts the field of quantum and results in a player being yoinked out of quantum, being in a sense interdicted. Now, a number of things will happen in regards to this. The first, of course, will be that the ship itself has expended a rather large amount of energy, so its maneuverability, its weapons, and its pretty much everything else will be severely reduced until the time for the ship to recharge its engines and recharge everything else before attempting to do anything else ever again. So in a sense, you're a one-trick pony, which is not good. The second thing is that the person will be kind of pissed off at you and will probably want to kill you for doing such a thing, which, depending on whether they're a criminal or not, will be pretty much a given and accepted with grace. The third thing is that if they're not a criminal, not only will they be given encouragement by the UEE navies and all that jazz for doing so, they'll also give them a fat paycheck if they're utilizing the call to arms thing, because this is actually a crime. Unsanctioned quantum enforcement usage is illegal, and as such, you will find yourself on the firings line very quickly if you decide to do this without the sanction of the UEE Navy. So, all in all, not really worth it, is it? Not really. So, sadly, the effective usage of the Mantis has kind of faded into obscurity. Like, when this ship came out, everyone lost their shit. You had players complaining that basically Star Citizen would become unplayable because all the trolls would be utilizing this thing left, right, and center. You had the trolls complaining because they couldn't immediately blow other ships up when you could fly these things. When you utilize these things, and you know, it was a bit of a contentious thing, but as the months and years have gone by since this release, it's kind of faded into obscurity because there's not really any means for you to do what you want to do with this ship. Now, of course, when quantum lanes become a thing, maybe this thing might get more of a validation to its services, but for the time being, it's really just a glorified concept art. In my opinion, but I still think it's worth having a rent because it is a ship. You know, if you're a collector, then it is still worth having a little bit of a look around, still having this thing to try out because it can do something. Though when I did fly around with it, it wasn't that maneuverable when I flew around with it. So you'll no doubt want to fly with this ship with an escort, definitely with an escort, which we'll get to that near the end of this video. We'll get to that. But there you go. So. A glorious ship. Was I falling off? Oh, I was falling into the stairway. GG. So, a glorious starter ship and a glorious thing is the best way I could describe it. But yeah, again, give it a try, which you can actually, because you can actually rent all of the ships in the event. You can actually rent for a day. So, recommend you do that if you want to give it a try. But in my opinion, I feel sorry for you. I just feel sorry for you. So now that we've taken care of the introduction to the wall and the arena and the first 2 ships, let's talk about these gems. These are, of course, the Constellation series. 2 of them have fairly similar internals, so I'm only going to be going through one of them, and the third is the snazzy transport rich wanker edition, which we will be also going through, just to sort of show the difference in terms of design. But for those who've not heard of this ship, what is the Constellation? Well, the Constellation, all the way back in 2011, 2012, was the calling card ship. This was the big multi-crew vessel. This was the biggest ship at that point to be released, and it was very impressive at the time. I won't lie. I was like ogle-eyed staring at this thing when Mighty Jingles was playing through and giving these ships a bit of a trial, which I was in love. I did like I liked this ship, but more of the concept I was in love with was the concept of multi-crew usage, because well we'll have a look at the internals of this ship. So the Constellation series is to be honest with you, I'm going to be blunt about this thing. I'm not a huge fan of this ship. what it can do versus what other ships can do, in my opinion, is not as great as it could be. And I think it's a shame, but I'm sticking by my guns because we'll try and get into the weaknesses of this thing. But anyway, so what is this version of the ship? Well, this is the Constellation Andromeda. This is the more militaristic style ship. You've got multiple size 3 and 4 guns available on the engine struts. Fuck ton of missiles. I think 64 size 2s or 32 size 2s or 3s. Anyway, fuck tons. And it has access to 2 manned turrets, dual turrets, on the upper and lower parts of the ship, which is pretty cool. Internal lighting has also received an upgrade, which I've noticed is actually quite nice. Yeah, much better. But before, this whole environment would be dark as shit. But now, I mean, it's still dark, but it's much better than it before. I haven't been on the ship though since, in terms of power, since the recent updates, but I can say that I have flown the ship a couple of times. So while that does not mean I know what the fuck I'm talking about and I have total experience, I have killed more of these things than flown them. So here's the viewpoint of the pilot. You have 3 options for you have 3 slots for the crew. This is more probably for glamorizing and probably other things than actually practical usage, but hey ho. And the visuals from this cockpit is actually pretty cool, though the struts, in my opinion, are kind of blocking this central point here, which is quite critical mass. The Aquila, which is that version over there, which sacrifices one of the turrets up top as well as a few other weapons, has the much preferable bubble dome rather than this angled front. But still, you have some decent visuals, and, you know, as this is a not so huge ship, it has some maneuverability. But again, it is limited. I won't lie about that. So, making our way towards the stern of the ship. I mean, to be honest with you, it's worth renting it. With all the things I say, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below, because obviously these are my opinions of these ships, but if you guys are more curious, or if you guys want to talk about other things, I encourage you to talk about them. Keep it civil, obviously, but I encourage you to talk about them. Of course, the most important part of any ship is, of course, the shit shower. Now, in this case, we've removed the toilet because, unfortunately, people in the previous events have actually taken the concept of the toilet being there as a sign of, oh, I can actually go to the loo on this, which is not encouraged because, well, the plumbing isn't properly working, so make of that what you will. There is also a table which normally could raise up, and I don't know whether you have to be inside the seating to actually make it raise up, but it does raise up, so there you go. Obviously the crew of 4 in their own respective bunk beds, which can also turn into escape pods, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's an ability for you to use these as an escape pod. And we go into the cargo bay. As you can see, it is a pretty hench cargo bay, meant to be utilized for the URSA Rover transport, which is also available for renting, as well as other stuff in below the decks. As you can see, here's the fuck ton of missiles I was talking about. Quite a few, to say the least. On the sides of the ship, you do also have 2 docking collars, but again, with docking not quite there yet, they're not that useful. But, oop, lag spike. Oof, there we go. Again, apologies, guys. So, but I've boarded a Connie in 0G with those things. It's not fun, just to say the least. I think we only did it once and then we stopped. So here's the thing, though, that is different, which is this room. Now, this is a separate airlocked room, which is very, very cool for one reason, which is docking. So yes, in recent updates in patch 3.12, we finally got the ability to have for the Kruger P-52 Merlin and the Kruger P-72 Archimedes, finally can undock from this thing, because that was one of the other big selling points of the Constellation series, which was docking. You have a snub fighter. It can fly around and shoot shit for you. Or you can fly around in, you can go from ship to Atmo, space to Atmo, creating a much less, having a much smaller signature, making it really kind of cool. So I'm a little unwilling to go into these things, but let's see if we can try. I am a little doubtful. I was able to get into the Archimedes, no problem, but I think this one's a slight jank. Unless you're supposed to stand here and then it lets you get in, but we will see. I saw someone was in this earlier. We had someone with a Drake Interplanetary t-shirt on, but obviously he didn't like the fact that the ship was falling apart all around him the moment he hit the engine button, so I suppose he just decided to take off, which is a bit of a shame, because it would have been funny. Then again, I'm surprised the Drake Interplanetary person didn't just fall apart as they walked around the exhibition, but there's, you know, there's one of those mysteries we'll never quite find out. So as we make our way over to the airlock, we'll just sort of head down to it. So yes, the Constellation series. Why am I not a big fan of them? Well, apart from the fact that, well, there's two reasons really. The first is anything the Constellation series can do, many other ships can do better. You know, it's kind of like, again, you'll have the fans, you'll have the haters, you'll have the lovers, but in my opinion, the Constellation series is a ship that is impressive and can do some things, but in comparison to other ships that are around the verse, which are much more modern, have much more modern designs, have much more better utility to them, and generally aren't so easy to fucking destroy. The second reason why I find the Constellation series is weak is you've noticed a lot of the weapons that this ship has, in fact, I think all of the weapons that the ship has that is used by the pilot, I could be wrong, there might be a couple of them listed on the main fuselage, but a majority of the weapons that the pilot can utilize are on the engine struts. These can be shot off. These, I have destroyed many Constellations in my time, and in this time, I've been able to shoot off all of the engines, therefore by killing not only the mobility and agility of the ship, but its firepower options as well, making any kind of assault on a Constellation fairly fucking easy to accomplish. And sure, if the turrets are manned and other stuff, you can probably find it's quite a menacing ship to destroy, but it has glaring weaknesses, and once you've exploited those weaknesses, that's it, ship's fucked. It is effectively a series of bolted together parts of metal scrap, which is a bit of a harsh statement, I realise, but it's the truth, in my opinion. I'm sure I'm probably going to piss off so many Connie fans, but shoot me, this thing is useless in combat nowadays. Maybe before, no, nowadays it probably is. No, it is. I will stand by my words. So anyway, going from a utilitarianly focused ship, we now go to a more ship dedicated for luxury, which, considering the clientele, is, Knobhead. He probably is a nice dude, but he just looks like the kind of people who would work. He looks like the rich person who would use this kind of ship. So, the interesting thing about the Phoenix is that, despite being a luxury transport ship, all passengers would still need to use this airlock system to the utilitarian point where you can see the crew, who do have slightly snazzier beds now, so I suppose that must be something. But you still have to go through the utility, you have to go through the crew compartment in order to access this, which, in comparison, is night and day for... Yeah, like, look at this. It's high class. It's what RSI attempting to be Origin Jump Works looks like. I would say upper middle class travel. It's got a very impressive set of displays. It's got its own TV. It's got, well, two TVs, in fact. They're rich. It's got a nice conference meeting room with a window view. If we go slightly further afield, there is in fact a little panel here, which is a bit risky at the moment because if I hit it, we'll fall out. But you can in fact, we'll just pop this up here. It's like it's a nice, you know, it's a secret panel, which if you're not paying attention, you can miss. It has its own jacuzzi as well. So if I open this up, you can actually you can open and close it, so you can turn this into like I think a table or something stupid. Or you can have like a dancing floor, but most of the time it's a jacuzzi. Again, we've had to remove the water because people think it's a real bath and they started getting ready for it. So yeah, sadly not useful. But hey ho, it's a jacuzzi. It's a functioning one. Oh yeah, I just wanted a slight extra dig. So I'm not entirely sure if this is really an appropriate thing to have in an aquarium. It's like, hey, look at the ship you're on. That's broken in half. Moving on. We, of course, have the Première de la Suite, which is either the captain's room or the guy who's paying the most room, with a one-way mirror system. Not quite covering everything up. So if he's having a special certain time with a special certain lady, then or a special certain lady with a special certain lady, or a special certain man with a special certain man, people are still going to watch them have it. So, you know, not 100% great on that one, but hey ho, somewhat privacy. We do have access on these side panels as well to the components that are available. So if you are needing to fix up a few things, you can do so. And like the previous editions, we do have now a separate airlocked access to the Archimedes, which I believe you can actually get into here. There we go. There we go. That's what I got into earlier. So you can basically get into the ship. Eventually, oh, hello. This actually has a working HUD. Oh, wow. I'd laugh if I could somehow undock. And I don't want to, because I'll probably end up crashing the fucking ship. Power off. Is it? Oh, wow, I could. Engines on. Nope. I could almost. Right, let's turn this thing off. Alright, cool. So yeah, this is the, so basically, you may be wondering, what's the difference between the P-52 and the P-72? Well, the P-72 is the snazzier edition, which has 4 weapon mounts of size 1 of any choice. So, I can't remember. I don't think it does. I don't think they have missiles. I don't know. I don't think they do have missiles. I think it's just specifically weapon mounts. But the P-52, instead of having 4 weapon mounts, that's a pretty good shot. I like that. The P-52, instead of having 4 weapon mounts, only has 2 weapon mounts on its wings. But in the center of it, it has a massive size 2 Gatling gun, which in my opinion, I kind of prefer. Because it's in the center of the ship, giving you a nice little solid field of fire. And if the worst case should happen, and somehow your wing gets shot off without you exploding from it, you still have a level of firepower. Whereas the Archimedes doesn't have that. It instead, is that missiles? No, that's just rotating thrusters. Though that also looks like a missile or light. I don't know. We'll say no missiles until someone corrects me. But you can see, so you've got more. You can argue that the P-72 does have more firepower because you can, of course, swap weapons out. But you also have. The fuck was that? Never mind. You do have access to the ability to change the weapons. So I personally prefer the look of the P-52 just because it's more silver. It looks more swanky. It just looks better in my opinion. But then again, make of that what you will. So now that we've looked at the main hall, let's have a look at the other halls. And what a way to introduce the other halls than to show off this absolutely beautiful ship. This, of course, is the F8 Lightning. This comes from Anvil Aerospace. And it looks beautiful. It is, it's like the most sought after fighter in Star Citizen. And if you've played the Squadron 42 single player campaign, once it comes out and all that and has completed it, you will get this as an option to have. This is a ship that you will be able to get in the PU, which is really, I'm fucking jealous of, because this ship looks so fucking beautiful. I want it so badly. I want it so badly. I mean, myself and everyone else, to be honest with you, it just, it is. So the current livery as well is representative of a particular squadron. I can't remember their names, but these guys are basically the show-off squadron. Hang on, does it actually show you here? Yeah, Squadron 999, the F8 Lightning, developed by Anvil Aerospace as a replacement for the previous generation of F7A. It's basically it's a light/heavy fighter, like I'd say a medium fighter. I would call it the Jug. because it, in a sense of like it's heavy, but it's got loads of fucking guns on it. And again, you've got to customize it. It's all amazing. This thing just fucking rocks, and I want it. It looks so goddamn good. But yeah, this is the ship that gets premiered and teased a lot. Yeah, there you go. Squadron 999. Reckless. Funny. So yeah, it's so sexy. I love it. It's such a good looking ship. Everyone, to be honest with you, last year when we finally got when they actually finally made a debut, people lost their shit because people were able to steal these things. It was brilliant. But now, unfortunately, we can see it, but we can't touch it. And I swear to God, some bastard in CIG allowed us to see where you can get in, but not able to get in. I fucking hate them for that. But anyway, so going into the second room, we have a little bit more of a serious moment here, because obviously the UEE is not just a navy that fights things. It's a navy that saves lives. From making daring rescues inside different, more dangerous climates, working the launch bays and making sure that pilots can fly, being able to ensure that law and order are enforced, all that jazz. These guys are able to do so and are there for the safety of everyone in the UEE. But I love the tributes and all that. I mean, if you're an American, this kind of shit just like blasts you with like patriotism and all that. And I'm sure that's the intention of the whole thing. But I like it because it's a representation of humanity's determination to be amongst the stars, not just to merely be to survive, but to conquer, which is good. So, moving on into the next room. I'm pro-human, so sue me. So, going over to possibly the least likely candidates for an Invictus flight week are, of course, Origin motherfucking Jump Works. For those who don't play Star Citizen, Origin Jump Works are mostly rich people attempt at flying. They are the guys who will have the snazzier ships, the snazzier delicatage, I think is the word. They're mainly, it's snazzy, it's high quality, it's smooth, soft, sophisticated types of equipment. Some of their ships have been in the game for over 5 years, like in-game style. Some of them are more recent. Of course, there is the famous 890 Jump, which is probably the big flagstone of Origin Jump Works. But obviously, there are other ships of Origin Jump Works. One of them apparently wants to consider itself a military vessel. This one is part of the 300 series, known as the 325A, with a number of size 3 weapon-mounted points, some missiles, size 2s, and I believe some also size 2 maybe that's that's a size 3, that's a size 2. So but again, it may consider itself a military vessel, but it is also a Origin ship through and through, and you'll see why. So you got a lovely long ladder which we'll hop into. There we go. There's the ship. And as you can see, as you enter into it, you are not under any other impression except whoever owns this ship has money and wants to enjoy flying. They don't want to fly for the sake of flying. They want to do it in style. They want to do it with smooth, sophisticated lines. And you can see, because they've got this lovely open roof with a glass window. They've got areas where they can prepare food. They've got like a refrigerator. They've got a glass dish, which doesn't look like it doesn't actually have it, but it also looks like they've got a crucifix on it because they're going to need it. There's an ammunition rack and of course a wardrobe for when you need it. And then of course look at the very nice comfortable bed with the very nice comfortable lighting, and there's a TV, so whilst you're fighting on the front lines you can have your nice little thing. This is what a rich person probably imagines a war zone is like, if they can buy off the bad guys. And of course the most important thing in all ships, at least one thing Origin Jump Works gets right, is that there is in fact a shitter. So you definitely need one of those if you're going to survive in space for more than 2 days. But note the lack of a shower. Exactly. So we go over to the cockpit. Just got to get into this little cockpit-y thing. Sorry, I'm slightly allergic to pompous assholes. So anyway, as you can see, the display for the 325A is, I won't lie, the cockpit view is pretty impressive. You've got this pretty open viewpoint. It's all angled downwards, so it gives you as much visuals facing forward as possible, whilst being able to enjoy a variety of sort of touchscreen style things. You can open the exteriors, you can obviously access some of your MFDs will be coming up as well on holographic displays. All very snazzy. There you go, you can see. Again, yeah, as you can see, very snazzy, very fancy, but absolutely no practical sense in military terms, but hey-ho. So, there you guys go. There is, in fact, the Origin jump works for you. So, here's an interesting thing, though. While I absolutely I do not care about this ship, I do not like the ship. Oh, lag spike. While I don't care at all about the Origin Jumpworks 325A, I do actually say I like this one. This, of course, is the 100 series, this one being the 125A. This ship has it's a very simplistic, but actually the only Origin Jumpworks ship I actually kind of like, which is surprising, I know. You can actually have the ability to open up little compartments as well, so you can see all of the interiors, which is hilarious. So, what is this ship? Well, this is the 125A. I even owned this, which is surprising coming from me. This one has a couple of size 2 fixed heavy weapons. We sort of go into it. It's very much more bare bones basic. There is a little cargo bay hatchy sort of thing here where you can put a couple of cargo crates inside. There's also a slightly snazzy bed, but not really. It's more utilitarian in nature. This is probably the most utilitarian you'll find in an Origin Jumpworks ship, I'll be honest with you. And as you see, if we go into the pilot seat, we have the same thing. Heading off over into here, we have the similar design philosophy, slightly more refined, slightly more updated. The 300 series was released back in I want to say 2016, 2017, but I'm maybe earlier. It's been more than 5 years at this point since the Origin Jumpworks, whereas this ship came out in late 2019. So I would say around, I think at the time of Invictus 2020, it was a relatively new ship. And I actually quite liked it as well. So it was a very nice, and it's got a bunch more interactable features. You've got all the buttons along here, you've got the buttons along here. And again, it's got that sort of swept down towards the frontal section of the ship for terms of visuals. Its windscreen could be a lot to be desired though. It's very smudgy, but unfortunately when you have all the slobberinos coming over and getting their grubby paws on it, unfortunately there's only so much time you have before the event starts that you can clean all the windows, and they prioritize the better ships. So there is the Origin 100 series. So in terms of practicality, I would say the Origin 100 series is more designed for someone who wants to get from A to B. Like, you want to just... it does have quantum drive, not much fuel, mind you, but it does have it. So you'll more likely want to try and put this ship on a bigger ship and utilize this as a personal transport between the two. Or you want to try and utilize this as your own little basic starter before working onwards. But again, if you have budget... to go better, then I would highly advise you get the Avenger Titan, which we'll be seeing at some point in this event, and I'll be spewing out my love for that thing no matter what. Moving on to the big Mustang in the room, we're of course talking about the Consolidated Outlands Mustang, which is, this is I think the slightly snazzed up one, yeah, the Delta. So there are multiple variants of, I think no, this actually is the one that you can buy with like, is it the one you can buy or is it the Alpha? I think it's the Alpha, but I could be wrong. I most likely am wrong. But this is the Consolidated Outlands Mustang series. You do get other editions of the Mustang, obviously. This one, I believe, is the one that you can purchase for the same price as the Aurora's one, which is like 30-ish quid. Like 38, nearly 40 quid. And in my opinion, it's an okay fighter for what it needs to be, but in terms of a first ship, it is severely not what you want for a first ship, in my opinion. I would strongly recommend against it. The only distinctive unique factor, apart from its kooky frontal mount design, is the fact that it's the only ship to have rocket pods. No other ship in Star Citizen at this moment can actually equip rocket pods. I am sad about this because I think it would be a really good opportunity for other ships to have them. But sadly, no. No rocket pods for anyone else, which is really disappointing because I can imagine as soon as other ships can use rocket pods, the usefulness of this ship will go right out the window. So this ship does not have a bed at all. In terms of visuals, I can't deny that it does have an extremely good cockpit for visuals. There is not a single seam, not a single block, even better than the Origin Jumpworks ships. But there is this ginormous MFD display in the center, which does kind of obstruct a little bit of a view. So again, it's not perfect. But what I can say is that it does give you outstanding visuals all around. So there are good reasons. And this ship is designed for dogfighting after all. But again, it's a one-trick pony. In comparison to other ships, especially for someone who doesn't know much about, or someone who's new to Star Citizen, one-trick ponies are really not a good idea because you only get one perspective out of this game, and you kind of feel disheartened because your ship can only do one thing, whereas all the other ships are like flying around you doing 7 things at the same time. So while I will appreciate that the Mustang is a good ship maybe for combat and will probably give other ships a run for their money, it is also not that great. There are weaknesses to the ship. It is a bit of a big bugger. Other ships are small. Other more combat effective ships are smaller, sleeker, and faster. Whereas this ship, with its limited types of guns and the rocket pods, that's pretty much it. As soon as the rocket pods become exclusive to the Mustang, the usefulness of this ship will drastically decrease. Completely. So, there you go. I mean, to be honest with you, in my opinion, Consolidated Outlands kind of didn't do... Consolidated Outlands were... they improved in value, in my opinion, when when the Nomad came out. That, in my opinion, is a far more effective ship from Consolidated Outlands, but we're not going to see that at the moment. I don't think we actually see it at all this event, which is a shame, because I think that ship should also have been on display alongside the Mustang. Speaking on ships that we could have seen, we won't be seeing the Argo Mole, which is the Argo multi-operator laser extractor. But instead, we'll be looking at the logistical side of these ships. Because obviously, in war, logistics is probably just as strong as the actual fighting itself. To quote Napoleon, an army marches on its stomach. And the Argos will be the ships to provide the food for that army. As you can see, this is the MPUV edition of the... MPUV cargo edition of the Argo vehicle, which is pretty cool. It's funny, so I think it's fairly universal. Like, I think the MPUV will eventually be able to get to the point where they can detach the cargo pods and do whatever. You can have a transport edition, which allows you to transport like lower amounts of people, and then of course you've got the cargo edition, and eventually there's going to be an edition where there's going to be a giant fucking tractor beam device, which allows you to pick up any larger ship and help them get off into space, which is really kind of cool. But for Star Citizen's Invictus Week, the only sort of ships they can really offer to entice people to look at them is of course the MPUV, which is a bit of a shame. You can open up one door, and I'm going to assume the other door will close as well. No? There we go. So there we go. So as you can see, and its MFD's displays is actually pretty fucking dope. I don't really have too much experience with this ship. In fact, I think this is the only ship I haven't really flown in Star Citizen. I don't think this ship has a quantum drive, so it is very limited in where you can deploy it. And again, unfortunately, like the Mantis, there isn't that much of a use for it at the moment. But I would say once the requirements for like getting cargo from one part to the other or transporting shit, this thing will eventually start having use. It can actually fly in space, which I wasn't aware of. I thought it was just an Atmo-only ship, but it can in fact fly in space. So that's the second room for you guys. Now, obviously, as the days will go by, we'll be able to see more and more rooms being made up and opened up to the public. But for the time being, not a bad start. A bit of a disappointment on the Mustang side of things. I think Consolidated Outlands should have brought the Nomad, because while it's not entirely militarily focused, I still think it makes much more of an impact in terms of maybe reconnaissance or transportation. And also the fact that it's the only good fucking ship to come out of Consolidated Outland that is actually playable. But again, I digress. So without further ado, let's make our way to the last section of our video. So as we make our way down into the last part of our video, we'll talk about a few of the ground vehicles, well, one of the ground vehicles today, and then make our way to the holodeck. So the only ground vehicle available from RSI is, of course, the URSA Rover. And someone who is a massive fan of the URSA Rover, as we imagine. Oh, she must have fallen in love with it. She's like, marry me, I'll marry your children. So this, of course, is the only ground transportation vehicle that is available to play in Star Citizen. BSI have had its fair use of it, and I'm fairly certain any other clan worth its salt who utilizes ground combat has also used this vehicle. It has a crew compartment of 6, so 6 people can sit down on it, but obviously more people than 6 have in fact used it. It's a dangerous affair, but if you keep the discipline strong, you can in fact not get people get smushed all over the place when you go into it. So obviously you can see there's the 4 seats, which you can in fact close up and push ups or whatever, so you can either take some cargo if you're absolutely desperate, but there you go. And then as we make our way into the crew compartment, you have the driver's catch on the left side and the passenger on the right side. So what's cool about this particular vehicle, like the Ballista, which we'll be seeing when it's Anvil Day, is that when you we'll get into the driver's seat for the sake of it. So when you get into the driver's seat, and you don't have a person on your passenger seat, you can actually enter the remote turret, which is located on the top of the URSA's rover. This is basically a size 2 Bulldog repeaters, and if you're planning on if you have a bit of a preference on playing in first-person view, the Bulldog repeaters are very awesome. I have used them on occasion, though that was more when I was being the passenger. So, as you can see, it gives you a nice 360-degree traverse. Sadly, the degrees are representative of the front of the vehicle, not anything else. Trust me, when I first saw this, my brain was like, is it a compass? And like, no, it wasn't. It was such a tease. It was infuriating. But no, so the unique thing about the Rover is that you can utilize the gun whether you're driving or whether you're a passenger. Though, if you have a passenger in the passenger compartment, I think you won't be able to access the gun unless, or basically you tell the passenger don't use the gun. But apart from that, the passenger really can't do anything, so they have to kind of use the gun. But if you're not having a passenger and you just want to drive around, this is a pretty good vehicle for you. It's quite maneuverable, not that well armored. The wheels can get shot off and blown up fairly quickly, but it does have its own. It is still somewhat armored. It's like somewhat decent. But again, it's the only one available, so there's no real comparisons to make apart from it's a ground transport vehicle. But anyway, so RSI, ladies and gentlemen, they make ground vehicles. So we're now making our way towards the sort of the last section of our visit, and first we'll have a look at this little thing. This is really cool. This is like a little it's like basically a timeline of the first event. So for example, so as you can see, all the history of all the different there you go. So basically the Invictus week, basically talking about what was made it essential. So initially it was due to a needing of an extra population to be able to survive the Tavaran conflict, and then eventually it becomes a little thing. Ivan Messer officially formalizes Invictus as a governmentally recognized year event, which basically means these guys celebrate stuff, so yep. And then after a while, we sort of see various events. Make attendance mandatory, yep, it's mandatory, GG. Using to meet him safely, and eventually it becomes, after the Invictus week, But yeah, so it's basically, it's like a timeline for the Invictus week and its importance in the UEE's history. But of course, this room is more important in our eyes as the players, because we get to see what's coming up in the Star Citizen universe. And I kind of go from like shit to amazingly, I need it in my life. So without further ado, let us showcase the shit in the form of the G12. This is the Origin Jump Works attempt at a ground vehicle, and I strongly I state the attempt, because what this effectively is a moon buggy with a rocket launcher attached to it. This is known as the G12A, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So the G12A is basically a ground-based transport vehicle with the capacity to shoot down aerial foes, as well as transport a few troops. This is meant to be more of a quick-style combat vehicle with the ability. It's meant to be sort of in and out, drop in, throw some missiles out, drop out again, do whatever. But the thing is, it's really not that doesn't really look that good. I mean, the wheels are exposed for one thing, so that's going to be a prime target for anyone who's engaging you. There's this giant window fucking glass at the front, which means just a giant target saying "shoot me, I'm the driver." We've got what looks to be limited armor anyway. Sure, they'll have a shield generator, but a couple of railgun rounds is going to go through that, fucking no joke. And finally, how many troops do you think will get in there? Just hypothetically, how many troops do you think will get in there? 2, maybe 3? No, I don't think this vehicle is going to be of any major use in any ground kind of combat. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see till the ship comes into the game, but I'm fairly certain we're not going to see any real practical use out of this particular thing. Of course, Origin Jump Works has a civilian and a racing model. The racing model, in fact, has an EMP device attached to it, which just goes to show how much Origin Jump Works cares about playing fair. But no, this thing is just more of a glorified moon buggy Lamborghini. And that's it in my eyes. There are far better vehicles that do the same thing and more. I mean, in terms of combat capacity, we've got the Tumbril MT, which has not only missiles and a cannon. We also have other ground transport vehicles that maybe can be utilized for transport, including the Tumbril. So again, no, I don't think that vehicle is going to be of any major use to anyone really, but hey-ho. Moving on from the ship, we now finally start to see some good things, and the first good thing we see is the RSI Polaris. This is a tiny frigate. I say tiny, it's going to be big, but you know, the RSI Polaris, which is going to be a lovely little blockade style ship. It's got multiple guns to defend itself, and I think it also has access to a bunch of massive torpedoes as well. This ship is going to be probably representative of the escort class frigate, with its own abilities to either provide escort, but also to act as maybe as a command center if you're working with a small team in the field. I mean, to be honest with you, I can't wait till the capital ships come into this game. They just look absolutely fantastic, and will be a really good representation of what the kind of clan warfare we'll be having, because that's the thing I'm kind of looking forward towards. It sounds bad, I know, but when you hear stories from the likes of Eve, and you see the kind of scale that the wars can get up to, I do genuinely wonder if the UEE, or the kind of war that we're going to be having with different clans, is going to be to the same scale. Eventually, I kind of wonder whether at this point the UEE kind of becomes a backdrop, and it's like they're just like, you know what, we'll leave you guys to fight over these planets. But yeah, so there you go. Big ship, much love. Of course, speaking of big ships, much love, we also have to talk about ships that probably won't get much love when they come out, but they could be kind of useful. Another ship from RSI, known as the Constellation Taurus. So this is the, I think, last in the Constellation series. There may be more, but I doubt it. Which is utilizing the curved dome effect of of the front windows, which in my opinion is vastly superior than the Andromeda's pinched nose routine. But this ship's unique factor is that it has a much, much bigger cargo bay capacity. Like, it probably dominates 2/3 of the ship, which could be very interesting if it wasn't for the fact that it was a fucking Constellation series. I fear that the Constellation, this particular ship, will come out and maybe it'll do some good. Maybe it'll be a challenge for the Caterpillar. But unfortunately, since the release of the Hercules, there really isn't much to go against it. I mean, the Hercules has a much bigger cargo capacity. I think like almost 700 SCU's worth of cargo. I haven't done the run. I haven't really done the numbers, but when we get to Hercules Crusader Day, I will tell you the exact numbers. But I can tell you now, the Taurus is probably going to be struggling to compete. So maybe in terms of cost, it'll be considered more viable because it is a cheaper ship. But apart from that, I really don't know if this ship's going to be receive much of a welcome. I mean, it's been in development for such a fucking long time. So one can hope. One can hope. But we'll move on to the other big ship, which I'm much more looking forward to. Hey, baby. Oh, hello, you beautiful baby, you. Oh. Oh, hello, Miss Dummy Thick. This, of course, is the Perseus, which you'll be intrigued to note actually is apparently going to be about the same size as a fucking 890 Jump, which it is considered the largest ship in the game, so that's a good reference point. But this ship will be slightly better because it'll have 2 dual size 7 cannons. Yeah, turreted cannons. This ship looks absolutely fucking beautiful. It's kind of like a Star Destroyer, but much more hench. And again, only requires a limited number of crewmen to fully operate. But oh my good days, this ship looks absolutely beautiful. I cannot wait to see her in action. I mean, to be honest, to see her in the verse is another thing. But we're getting there. We're getting there, guys. Just hold on, all right? Just hold on. So fucking lovely. So we make our way towards the last ship in the line, which is a recent announcement. This is the RSI Scorpius. This is the 2-seater heavy fighter, which is set to release next year. It has 4 size 3 gimbaled, which have size 2s attached to them, or which is going to be more what I'll do when I get it, is 4 size... Fucking hell, NPCs, fuck off. 4 size 3 fixed weapons. And the unique thing about this particular ship is that its turreted quad size 3 guns will have the ability to move from the front to the back. Which, if we speed up our character and avoid the NPCs, he's very much admiring the wall. It's like, that texture is so amazing. The way that the ship's design is going to be is that these guns will kind of go down on a track and then go to the rear of this ship, being able to provide cover for all sides of the ship. Now, so far, I'm fairly certain this is for legal reasons. They've not mentioned what this particular design is. But it looks remarkably familiar to the famous ship from a film series. I can't remember what it's called. Cars. So yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but you know, it's a fucking X-Wing. You know it's a sodding X-Wing. It's the X-Wing, guys. Come on. It's an X-Wing. I need this ship. I did mention in previous Invictus weeks and other events that if they did invent an X-Wing for a Star Citizen, I would be all over it. Well, Sonny Jim, I'm all over this thing because it's a fucking X-Wing. It's a fucking X-Wing, and I need it in my life. And I am very much wanting to get it. So, yes, if I can somehow construe a reason in my head to perhaps skip out on a few lunch meals, then yes, perhaps I might get it. But no, it looks so nice. Anyway, I will stop fondling over this thing before the neighbors get curious. So anyway, yes, this is the latest ship to come out of RSI. A much more modern, much more glorious X-Wing. I know probably for legal reasons they can't say it as such, but the YouTube commentators, like some of the Law of the West, and I haven't watched Morphologist's video yet, but Law of the West hadn't even talked about the concept of it's an X-wing. Like, I know they probably can't say that because of reasons, but I looked at it and I'm like, that's an X-wing. You can't, like, I love for me, I'm a fairly big Star Wars fan. Like, classic, original trilogy and Rogue One, best fucking films. Even the prequels are pretty damn good, and Clone Wars, obviously. Pretty much everything except the new films, I love. Like I said, again, with exceptions of Rogue One and Han Solo. But Rogue One for the win. But no, I love the X-Wing. It's my favorite ship in the entire, like, Star Wars universe. So when Star Citizen has fucking announced a ship that looks remarkably similar to an X-Wing, I'm gonna be getting it. So yes, thank you also very much for watching it. That is day 1 of our of Invictus event done. I'm making my way back now to somehow contain myself for the next day. But yes, thank you so very much for watching, and I thank you if you guys also want to put a comment down talking about the ships. What ships did you like? Did you like the Mantis? Did you like the Aurora? Any of the Constellations? X-Wing? All of these ships that are now becoming available, and I'm hoping you guys will enjoy this event. And if you haven't thought of it already, please do consider jumping on this game. It is a fantastic game. Performances may vary. Unfortunately, it's going to be busy. Loads of people are going to be trying this game. So if you find that your performance is slightly lagging, don't think it's this game. It's the servers. It's an alpha, and it will occasionally have problems. I've had issues where the frames just tanked. But hopefully this year they have addressed the issues of how many players jumped in, and hopefully we'll be able to see lots more people enjoying this game for the first time. So I hope to catch you in the next episode of this series, where we'll be seeing the next day on the schedule, and I will also try and see if I can get a video of what it's like up in the stars. So I'll see you guys in the next one. This is Mr. Jaeger signing out.